The Greater Ashmont section of Dorchester has long been a hub for transportation. More recently, the area has been getting more of a profile as a place to go for food and culture. A new ingredient is the Dot Jazz series, hosted by Greater Ashmont Main Street and the Mandorla Music Series. To tell us about a performance February 15th by the Eric Hofbauer Quintet are its leader, Eric Hofbauer, and the Main Street Program's Executive Director, Jenn Cartee.
Thank you very much.
I want to start with Jenn. Why a jazz series?
Personally, I've been a lifelong jazz fan, and in Dorchester, I'm a resident in Fields Corner. We lost the VFW regular concert with Curtis Rivers' group over there a little while ago. If we were going to be putting on ongoing live music, I was excited to work with a friend from parenting days, Mark Redman, to use his Rolodex from Mandorla Music to bring some great talent into Dorchester itself.
And talk about the setting here. This is going to be at All Saints Church, not in the main part of the church, but in Peabody Hall?
No, it's not in the sanctuary. It's in Peabody Hall, but Peabody Hall has a nice little elevated, alcoved performance area that's been a great, cozy, and good projection acoustic space for the groups that we've had so far. We started in April with the Jason Palmer Quartet, right before he went to Newport Jazz Festival, actually. And the turnout was so amazing. We had 65 paid ticket holders that first night that we wanted to see about doing it as a quarterly ongoing series, which we've been able to schedule out. Eric's group is the third of four in that quarterly series.
Eric, talk about your music, because you draw on many different angles here. It can sound like blues, it can sound like Stravinsky. What about that?
Right, and the particular project that I'm bringing in, it's one of my more recent groups called simply put, the Eric Hofbauer Quintet, but we do a project, our concept is called Prehistoric Jazz, where I borrowed that name actually from a quote that Leonard Bernstein said in a clip that I saw of him rehearsing a college band doing The Rite of Spring. So I got this idea of writing jazz arrangements of 20th century classical pieces and treating them like jazz artists throughout the 20th century treated Tin Pan Alley repertoire as vehicles of familiarity, as familiar songs as vehicles for improvisation. Well, why can't you do that with these long, extended, behemoth, classical pieces? So I started with that one because that was coming up on the centennial of that release, so I wrote an arrangement for that. It was such fun and so interesting and challenging to write and to work with these wonderful musicians. Four CDs and 4 pieces.
Well, I seen the clip of you playing part of The Rite of Spring. It was used by Walt Disney in Fantasia,
right,
so it's a catchy part of the ballet.
Yeah.
But one of the things I've struggled with in playing Stravinsky is that you've really got to be on your toes, figuratively, and not maybe. What's it like when you're playing this?
It does take a great deal of, focus and concentration. There are moments in my arrangement that are kind of doorways or outlets into more of a kind of a common tongue jazz language for everybody in the band. But what's of great creative satisfaction is we play these moments where it's like, okay, walking kind of bass line, people are soloing, maybe together, individually, but then we go right back into something very specific, something very composed, and definitely something that if you know the piece from Fantasia or just from hearing it from the BSO or from recordings, you're like, wow, we're right back into the song, and I know exactly what part we're in. So yeah, finding that balance, it's exciting.
This has been a news, and we're talking about the Dot Jazz series with Eric Hofbauer and Jenn Cartee. Jenn, people aren't just going to go there to this event to hear the music. They're going to hang out, eat some food. We've
talked about this particular one as a good alternative day, Valentine's Day. Dinner and a show. There's a couple of great restaurants in walking distance. There's parking at the church, and it's right next to the Ashmont T station. And then at the event itself, the $15 ticket price includes dessert from a local bakery, and as well as soft drinks provided. So you have about a half hour once doors open to meet your neighbors and just see faces that you haven't seen around the neighborhood before. We also are lucky enough to have wherewithal to give away tickets to the boys' choir at All Saints and other student groups to be able to join us that evening.
How does this fit in with maybe an even more essential mission of the Main Street program? Because around Ashmont Station, you really have different neighborhoods. You got Ashmont Hill, you've got the sort of the other end of Ashmont Street, Elmer Road, and you got St. Mark's area. Does this really draw people from all those quarters?
I really do think it does. Our district is particularly linear. We go from Mercier up to Melville, which is a 1.1 mile strip of Dorchester Ave. There aren't that many venue spaces that would be appropriate for music production in a 2 mile radius of us. And whether it be publicizing it on the local community listservs, we abut 8 different civic associations, or the next door sites, or in the local newspaper. It's one of the few opportunities in the next 4 or 6 weeks to be able to see live music without heading downtown.
Eric, we've been hearing for decades, really, about the dwindling number of venues for jazz. What does this mean to you, that you can come to a place like here?
It's actually wonderful. It is a type of a renaissance in a way, or a throwback, if you will, to an older, the older days of jazz, which were supported by communities, by neighborhoods, by venues, or more specifically by promoters and curators that are booking, organizing, and bringing with them a venue and a built-in audience who is interested and excited to hear new music, whereas now a lot of venue spaces are kind of what are called pay-to-play spaces, where the artists themselves or a band or a group of artists might have to pitch in, rent the space up front, take the risk, try to earn the money back on ticket sales. This is the type of venue where we are able to just focus on the music and put on an amazing show for the crowd.
What about a live show? Because the other thing here is that, you know, there are so many different kinds of music you can hear in recordings, and you can download them. This is appealing music, but a lot of people just never get it in their earshot even. I mean, isn't this great that you get this contact point? It's
amazing. Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I went to the last .jazz series just to check out the room, hear the sound, acoustics, and everything. And there were definitely some people there that knew the musicians, but definitely more people there just knew the space and knew the community and knew that it was a place to hang out and check out something new. And that's what I'm looking forward to. Is like, you know, perhaps most of the audience will have never heard these arrangements of my pieces, and it's really exciting to share this music with an audience with open ears.
Jenn, we should mention the details on this. Is on the 15th, and exactly what time?
Doors open at 7, and the music starts at 7:30. And you can find more information about the event at Greater Ashmont on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and at mandorlamusic.net. Ticket links are at all of those locations. We really do need to credit Mark Redman with Mandorla Music for being able to curate it. What Greater Ashmont brings to the table is the relationship with the space and the community. Right. And we split maybe the publicity outreach, but his ability to use his Rolodex to find the artists who are excited to be playing to these new audiences has been phenomenal.
Thank you both very much, Jenn Cartee and Eric Hofbauer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
We'll have more news in just a moment.